Okay, in this video, we're going to set up bundles. Now, a bundle in ASP.NET is basically a way to provide us with minified JavaScript and CSS. So basically what we're going to be setting up here are some scripts and some styles that we're going to be using throughout the rest of this project. So I just kind of wanted to do this first before we jump into getting our database set up, because we're going to be taking advantage of these features, well, for the duration of this project. So first of all, what's a bundle? Well, again, a bundle is a way to group together scripts and styles so that they get minified when we deploy to production. What do I mean by that? Well, what we want is we want all of our scripts and styles to be combined into a single file. So one file for scripts and one style for bundles. And then we want all of the extraneous white space and comments stripped out of those bundles so that we decrease the amount of time it takes to load those resources when the user visits the page. Fortunately for us, this feature is now built into ASP.NET. We do, however, have to add a Nougat package. So let's start off with that. I'm going to right-click References, Manage Nougat Packages. I'm going to go to Online tab, and I'm going to search for Microsoft.web.optimization, and I'm going to grab ASP.NET Optimization Bundling. We see that's been created by Microsoft, so this is probably what we want. Okay, so now that we have that in there, it doesn't actually do anything. That's a recurring theme, isn't it?
Yeah, we've done this thing that doesn't do anything.
Exactly. So what we have to do first is we have to register our bundles, then we have to import the bundles into our layouts. So to register the bundles, I'm going to follow the convention that's been established by ASP.NET, and I'm going to create a class inside my app start that is going to be invoked from my application start, just to clean things up. So I'm going to create a bundle config class. This bundle config class is going to have a single static method called register bundles. So it's going to be public static void register bundles. It's going to take in a bundle collection called bundles. Note that by bringing in bundles collection, we now have a using Microsoft Web Optimization using statement up here. So how do we create a bundle? Well, the bundle API is actually very, very modular, and we can attach a bunch of different kinds of things into it. But fortunately for us, bundles come bundled with a script bundle and a style bundle. So we basically are going to want to have a style bundle and a script bundle for both our front end and our back end. So let's talk about what files we need. Well, we need a JavaScript file for our backend, and we need a CSS file for our front end and our backend. So where are we going to put that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a styles folder and a scripts folder. I'm actually not going to create a styles folder. Sorry about that.
And why aren't we going to do that?
Because I'm going to put it underneath content.
Ah.
So I'm going to create a content folder, and underneath that I'll have a styles folder. Because content is also going to contain things like fonts and images and Flash, if we have Flash, and so on and so on. Whereas
Gotcha.
scripts is going to contain just our scripts. So inside of our content folder, we have a styles. So let's start off with creating our style bundles. We'll get that all set up. We'll bring in something called Bootstrap, and then we'll get jQuery set up. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click and say Add Code File, and I'm going to create a code file called site.css. This is going to be the styles that we're going to use for our front end. I'm going to go ahead and just say body background yellow. The reason I'm doing that is we'll know when this is getting imported properly when our background turns this horrible yellow color. I'm going to do the same thing for the admin styles. So I'm going to right-click, new code file, admin.css, and I'm going to say background or body. Let's make this background purple. So we got Fluttershy and Rarity. Or sorry, Fluttershy and Twilight. Well, Rarity has some deep blue, I guess. Whatever. Either way, we'll know.
It's going to stand out.
It's going to stand out. So we'll know when this is working correctly. Next up, we need to bring in Bootstrap. What is Bootstrap? Well, Bootstrap is a CSS framework that basically allows us to write, well, it just gives us so many nice little CSS components that's gonna really accelerate the development of this application and actually make it look good in the process. As we can see underneath the components tab, there are a bunch of different components. We got icons, we got buttons, we got drop downs, we got menus, we have button groups. Basically anything you can possibly think of, it's in Bootstrap.
One-stop shopping.
Yep. So we want this. So how do we get it? Well, we go to Bootstrap, we say download Bootstrap, we download it, and we open up the zip that's sent to us eventually. Maybe. Oh, it ran over to my other monitor. And we have a folder called Bootstrap 300. So what do we need out of this package, this Bootstrap package? Well, we only need the fonts and the dist. Dist stands for distribution, which will include our fonts for us and our CSS. So we want bootstrap.css, and we want all of our fonts. Bootstrap.css contains all of the Bootstrap code in an unminified development version of Bootstrap. We don't want bootstrap.min. Bootstrap.min is the minified Bootstrap for production use. However, ASP.NET gives us a minification system for CSS anyway, so we're going to use the development version, and then in production, ASP.NET will automatically minify it for us, so we don't have to worry about bringing in the min here.
That's very cool.
So what I'm going to do, indeed it is, by the way. I'm going to go to Styles, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Open in Folder in File Explorer. And I'm going to click and drag bootstrap.css into this folder. I'm going to back out into Content. I'm going to create a new folder called Fonts. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to back out of this folder, and I'm going to open up Fonts, and I'm going to grab all the fonts, and I'm going to dump them in there. Now, I don't think I mentioned why we have fonts quite yet.
No, we haven't talked about why we have them.
Yeah, they're actually the icons. The icons are implemented as fonts.
Ah, there you go.
Which is
and
cool.
Suddenly that makes a lot more sense.
Yep. Which is cool because the font rendering engine will allow us to color the icons any color we want. It'll also allow us to resize the icons however we want, because remember, fonts are vector-based.
Ah, yes.
So as opposed to having or PNGs or GIFs or whatever, fonts are very nice. You'll notice something interesting right here, and this will be a recurring theme throughout development with Visual Studio. You'll notice that our actual files that we just moved into these folders don't exist in Visual Studio.
Yep.
Although they do exist on the file system. So how do we show the files so we can import them into our project? Well, it's actually very easy. There's a button up here in Solution Explorer called Show All Files, and if I click on that, we now see Bootstrap and fonts appear.
Excellent.
To include them into our project, we simply right-click, say Include in Project. And then with fonts, we simply right-click and Include in Project. Now we can disable Show All Files, because we now have our fonts and styles imported.
Excellent. All right, that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, so we now have our styles. So let's go ahead and create two style bundles. One is going to be for the admin, and one is going to be for the front end. So I'm going to go into bundleconfig.cs, and I'm going to create two bundles simply by invoking bundles.add new style bundle. And you'll notice that we don't actually get a style bundle. The reason is, and I'm going to leave this in the video actually for a reason, is the optimization framework is actually a pain in the ass to actually locate.
Okay.
We have the wrong optimization framework installed.
Ah.
Indeed. So let's go into references and manage Nougat packages. This will happen. This is, again, I like leaving the mistakes in that happen to me often.
Well, yeah, because they're bound to happen to somebody else.
Right. So I really want to keep this in here to show you guys that I got the wrong one. So let me...
It was the second one, wasn't it? I should have spoke up.
If I can find it. Where's my... Visual Studio is dying. Maybe Visual Studio really doesn't want me to keep this video rolling.
It'll come back. I have faith.
Hold on, it's thinking. It's really thinking. Here we go. Okay, we want to get rid of ASP.NET optimization bundling. We don't want that. Instead, we want Microsoft ASP.NET Web Optimization Framework.
Oh, I was wrong then.
So we want Microsoft ASP.NET Web, and then it should have... op. Here we go. We want the Microsoft ASP.NET Web Optimization Framework.
Alrighty.
Again, this will happen to you. Unfortunately, this optimization framework has been in a really... And of course, we accept these without reading them. This optimization framework has really been through quite a few different revisions, so it does become a little bit weird with its packages. Either way, we now have it installed, which is nice. Now, these are actually in a different namespace. They're actually in System Web Optimization, not Microsoft Web Optimization.
So our other stuff just broke.
Yep, we'll remove that. We'll make sure we're using the right thing. And now we can type in style bundle.
There we go.
So now we have the right one installed. Okay, the style bundle or any of the bundles constructors come with a parameter in their constructor that determines where the path to the bundle exists as a virtual path. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this bundle exists at admin/styles. Now that's not a real file, it just happens to be a path that I want to use for my style bundle. And it'll be the path that I use to print out the style bundle when we go into our layout. Then I'm going to say dot include, then I'm going to say tilde content styles bootstrap.css. Then I'm going to chain on another include and say content styles admin.css, and that is our admin style bundle. Now let's go ahead and create our front end bundle. So I'm going to say bundles.add new style bundle, and I'm going to pass it a path of styles with include content styles bootstrap.css and include content styles site.css. We have successfully created our bundles, at least our style bundles. We'll move on to our script bundles here in a moment.
Beautiful.
Okay, so now we have our style bundles. Let's go ahead and see how we can use them. If I go under View Shared Layout, there's a way to include our style bundles inside of our layout. Now, as we know, scripts go at the bottom of our body, but styles go at the bottom of our head. So to include our style bundle, we simply have to say @styles. Now, this class isn't imported yet, so I'm going to click on this to add a using statement to the top of my file for System Web Optimization so that styles now exists. Then I'm going to say dot render, and I'm going to pass in the virtual path that I created, which was just simply /styles. Does that work for you?
Sure.
Awesome. I'm going to hit F6. Then I'm going to find my Chrome window. I'm going to come back here and hit refresh and see what we get. We get nothing. So I'm going to view page source and see if any of our styles came in. And they did not. That is because, you want to know why this is?
I do want to know why this is.
Well, that is because we created our bundle config file, but we never actually invoked register bundles from our global ASICs. Remember, simply creating a file in app start isn't going to make it magically be invoked. We actually have to go into our global ASICs and tell it to be invoked on the application start event.
Ah.
So now we can simply say bundle config dot register bundles, and then we'll pass in bundle table dot bundles. Now again, bundle tables is in the system web optimization namespace, which I'll import by clicking. That brings in line 7 right here.
Yep, that gives us a use thing. Cool.
Yep, so now I hit F6, come back to my site, hit refresh, and we should see a terrible color. And we do.
We do.
Not only that, we also see the font has changed. Bootstrap overrides a lot of things when we include it in.
Gotcha.
So let's take a moment and look a little bit more about bundles. If I right click and hit view source, we'll see that we have a direct link to both of these files. I think some of you guys might be saying, well, Nelson, I thought you said that bundles made it so that it combines and minifies them into a single file so that in production they're faster to download. That's true. But in development, it makes it so that it doesn't minify or combine your styles or your scripts, which makes debugging a whole lot easier. Right?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I want to show you guys like an example of what it would look like if it was being combined. So to do that, I'm going to go into web.config. I'm going to go into web.config. There we go.
Harder.
Yep. And I'm going to set a flag from compilation debug from true to false. That simply tells ASP.NET we are no longer in debug mode. The bundler will pick up on that fact, and it will change the behavior of the bundle. If I come back here and hit refresh, and then go, you see how it looks the exact same?
Yep.
But when I hit view source, look at the link. Instead of 2 links, we have 1.
It's been minified. That's awesome.
If I open this link up, we now have a minified Bootstrap. So that's all Bootstrap right there.
Gotcha.
If we scroll all the way to the bottom, we should see right here, this is our background that we set in our style.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah. Notice also, just a thing to point out, notice how it's a hex value of yellow instead of the word yellow. That's because the bundler figured out that the word yellow was actually larger than the hex value of yellow, so it replaced it. That's how intelligent the minifier is.
Wow, that's really cool.
So it makes it as small as possible so that it doesn't take up much bandwidth over the wire. Okay, we're going to turn debug back on. We're going to turn debug back. There we go.
Harder.
Visual Studio is really having a difficult time tonight. Okay, so now we've gone through and we've created our style bundles for our front end and our back end. But let's go ahead and also bring in some scripts. Let's create some script bundles. Now the script bundles that I want to use are going to be, or the script files that I want to use for now are going to be, Bootstrap itself has a JavaScript component. We're going to bring in jQuery, and we're going to bring in unobtrusive JavaScript unobtrusive JavaScript validation from Microsoft. Sound good?
Sounds like a lot.
Yep, although it's very easy to do because of Nougat. I'm going to right-click References, say Manage Nougat Packages, and I'm going to search for a package that will bring in most everything except for the Bootstrap thing. You might be wondering why I didn't really use the Nougat Package Manager to bring in Bootstrap. There is a Bootstrap version in Nougat, but I personally prefer to download it straight from the site. One of the reasons is that Bootstrap just went through a major revision, and it's now version 3, and I really like to lock down versions of certain things, especially something like Bootstrap.
Gotcha.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for a package that has a dependency on all of the packages I want except for Bootstrap. So just one package will bring in everything I want. And that's going to be Microsoft, jQuery, and that should bring it up. Unobtrusive validation. Unobtrusive validation is really cool. It adds client-side validation to our code or to any of our models that have data annotations attached to them. So it's quite
That
handy.
sounds very handy.
So I'm going to hit install. Then I'm going to accept this. That just brought in 3 packages. See, it has a dependency on jQuery validation, and jQuery validation has a dependency on jQuery. So, as a result, we now have jQuery, jQuery validate, and jQuery unobtrusive. We do have a slight issue, though. It seems that our jQuery itself is a little out of date. Yeah, let's go into updates and update our jQuery and our jQuery validation. I want to update jQuery to version 203 and update jQuery validation to 1111. So I'm going to hit update on that. I'm going to hit update on that. Now I have the latest version of jQuery. I noticed that it was trying to download jQuery 1.4. I don't know why it was doing that, because that's really old. So,
But hey, good. Just another thing to note that you need to check.
yep. Make sure that definitely make sure that your jQuery is set up properly. Next up, I'm going to right-click on scripts, say Open File in Explorer, and I'm going to click and drag my bootstrap.js into my scripts folder. So now I have bootstrap.js, and I'm going to go back here, hit Show All Files, right-click on bootstrap.js, say Include in Project, uncheck that, and now I have all of my scripts properly added into my project. But again, that doesn't do anything until I set up my bundles. So let's do that. My bundles are I'm going to need an admin bundle and a front-end bundle for my scripts. So I'm going to say bundles.add new script bundles, and I'm going to say admin scripts. Now, I'm going to include, in this order, /scripts jQuery dash 2.0.3.js. Then I'm going to include scripts /jQuery .validate.js. Then I'm going to include scripts jQuery. I don't know how to spell unobtrusive. I'm just going to copy and paste this. There we go. We got our jQuery validate unobtrusive, and then we need our bootstrap. So those are our admin scripts. It's important that they come in this order. Because of the dependencies. See, jQuery validate and bootstrap both depend on jQuery, and jQuery validate unobtrusive depends on jQuery validate. So it's important to do it in this order. Then I'm going to copy and paste this, and instead of doing the admin scripts, I'm just going to do /scripts. That's because our front-end scripts are basically, at this point, the same as our admin scripts. The reason I'm creating 2 separate bundles for each resource type, however, is so that our you know what I mean.
So
we can have different scripts and different styles on our front-end and back-end. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go under Views, Shared, Layout, and I'm going to add a styles render. Where am I going to add it?
At the bottom.
Exactly. But before my render section scripts. That's because if a script in a view depends on jQuery, I want jQuery to be loaded first. So I'm going to say scripts.render/scripts, and that's it. Hit F6, come back here, hit refresh. We won't notice anything different because we're not actually using any of the scripts we brought in just yet. But if I view source, we see all of our scripts are being ported in.
Outstanding.
And remember, when we turn off debug, then they'll be minified and combined into a single script.
Excellent.
Okay, so next up, we have stuff. We have lots of stuff. How do you feel about stuff, Steve?
I love stuff. Not quite as much as things, but I do love stuff.
I suppose that'll just have to do.
What kind of stuff are we going to have?
We need to fix our fonts.
Okay. That's good stuff.
That is good stuff. Because I'm bringing Bootstrap into a directory structure that I want and it wasn't configured for, I'm going to have to change where Bootstrap tries to look for these fonts. That's actually really easy to do. I'm going to open up bootstrap.css. I'm going to do a Control F on fonts. And all I have to do is update all these URLs. In fact, I can just do a search and replace on this. So I'm going to search and replace on this. And there's actually another reason why I'm doing this, and we'll talk about that in a second after I fix it. So I'm going to go to Edit, find and replace, quick replace. I'm going to replace fonts with content fonts / Okay, the reason that's important is because the minification process will actually change the location of where the script or style is being loaded from. That means that any relative path in a style, for example, to a background image or a font or anything like that, will break when it minifies our code or when it minifies our CSS. Because then, from the browser's perspective, the CSS is now being served out of a different folder. And because Bootstrap was previously using relative pathing, that new folder would simply break.
Gotcha.
Alrighty, I think that wraps up everything with that. Let's just go ahead and toss a font in somewhere on my layout.shhtml just for fun, just to make sure it works. I'm going to say I class glyph icon. Let's do a glyph icon. There's so many of them. Look how many font, or let's do Bell. Bell sounds like fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Come back here, hit refresh, and hey look, our fonts are working.
We have a bell. That's nice.
Alright, obviously this isn't what the site's going to look like at the end of the day, but I think this pretty much wraps up for now all of the stuff we're going to be doing on the front end until we get our database figured out and we can actually work our front end to display the data that we want. So I think that just about wraps this video up. So we're going to have to make sure that we jump into source tree
And commit.
So I'm going to go to file status. Notice all the stuff that was imported, all of our dependencies.
We did a lot.
Indeed.
Okay, it did a lot.
Yeah, Nougat did more than us, actually, honestly. If you look at the difference between the files I edited and the files Nougat edited, I think Nougat wins.
Yeah. That's good, though. We like that.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and commit and say imported styles and scripts, jQuery, and Bootstrap. Hit commit. There is one last thing, actually.
Okay.
I totally forgot to show you guys the unobtrusive jQuery in action.
Okay.
Watch what happens when I hit login. The username field is required and the password field is required. It appears without actually sending it off to the server. So now our validation is being handled client-side instead of server-side. Well, it still is being handled server-side, but in addition to that, it's also handled client-side.
Ah, very cool. And that was part of that automatic stuff that went on.
Right.
Sweet.
All right.
All right. Well, on that note, I guess we will hop right on into the next video.
Yep.